Here.
Cooper. Here. Ferguson.
Here.
Latin. Here. Pauly.
Here.
Janelli.
Here.
Matrina.
Here.
Petrofessa.
Here.
Taversack.
Here.
Franzilla.
Here.
The gang is over.
Yay. Okay, moving forward. We're late. I'm looking for Jean Kerr. Is she in the audience? Yay. Dusty has her on. We'd like to award Jean Kerr first place Life Science Award that she currently achieved at the Connecticut State Science Fair. Can you step up, honey, and we can give you the award?
Now, when do you head out west?
You want to tell us a little bit about the project?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Please do. That's why we're here.
Here you go.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just be really brief just because I don't want to get too complicated or waste too much time. But I'm really interested in invasive species, and this is a really good area to kind of go into that type of research. And so my project is basically trying to control this type of weed called milfoil that's growing in all these lakes and streams. And it's a serious ecological problem, so I try to control it using natural milfoil weevils that are like in the environment around here, so they're not going to cause any problems in terms of pest management or anything. So I just basically try to control that problem in a natural, biologically safe way.
Now, what's the next step?
I was lucky enough, like they already said, to get first place at the Connecticut State Science Fair, and that means I'm going to go to the International Science Fair in Los Angeles in May. And so I'm going to go with 6 girls from all around Connecticut, and we're all going to go and compete at that level and just try to do our best to succeed and just represent Connecticut as well as we can. So I'm very excited.
Wonderful job. Thank you. The next announcement we're making tonight is a pretty big deal also. We have our Danbury High School girls basketball team for the SEAC Western Division champions.
Second year running.
Danbury is one of just 2 FCAC schools since 1961 to win 3 consecutive FCAC championships. Their head coach, Ms. Nardo's here. She's the one that coaches. Okay, Jackie, when you come, you'll introduce your girls and tell us a little bit about them.
Yes, ma'am, I'll do. You need to sit?
You want to get me up?
Full court press.
They knock me down. It's been a really exciting 4 years. This group is really special. We started out, I guess, in the last 4 years, we were like 87 and 13. So 2 years ago, we went 20-0, which was history. 3 years ago, we won the first FCAC in the history of Danbury High School girls basketball. We won history second 2 years in a row, and then this last year we had 3rd year, and that's only been done by 2 other teams. So we were hoping the states, but like always, we were 1 point short. Foul shot didn't quite fall in like we'd like, but really impressive. But I just, want to say not only about these young women, Janine Kerr, these are my girls. And, she's out there doing all the scientific and still finds the time to get on a basketball court. I want to brag not just about their athletic ability, what we've done in 4 years. I think I've kind of given you a picture, but I want you to listen to their academic. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I want to give your GPA so you can get an idea. And for the first time, and I want to say, that I do the eligibility, and I just brag about how our athletes and maintaining the classroom and doing the academics is just as important as on the athletic field. So I'm just as proud of that. So I'm going to start right here, and then we'll go from there.
I'm Shannon Geary, and I have a 3.9 GPA.
1 year in school.
Oh, I go to DHS, and hi again, I'm Janine Kerr. I also go to DHS. I'm a junior, and I have a 3.9 GPA also.
Hi, I'm Chloe Hennig. I'm a junior and I have a 3.8 GPA.
What school?
I'm Rachel Gardner, and I'm a senior, and I have a 4.2 GPA. Wow. I'm Kayla Hanbury. I'm a senior, and I have a 3.1 GPA.
I'm I'm Andrea Orr. I'm a freshman and I have a 2.5 GPA. I'm Zoe Coleman. I'm a freshman and I have a 4.5 GPA.
I'm Emily Brogy. I'm a freshman and I have a 3.6. I'm Michelle Elba. I'm a junior. I go to Immaculate and I have a 4.3 GPA.
Hi, I'm Lauren Gary. I also go to DHS. I'm a junior and I have a 4.2.
Yes.
And my last friend, we're gonna get out of your way, Rachel Gardner, all FCAC, she'll step forward a little bit. She's all FCAC for 3 years. She's also all state for 3 years. And she will be attending Boston College and full scholarship. Her sister is down working out. She wasn't able to make it, is going to Central Florida, the University of Central Florida on also full scholarship for soccer, and she's also 4.3 GPA. And then Kayla Hanbury is also going to play basketball, and she'll be playing at Western Connecticut State University.
And can we give a hand to the coach, please? And to the parents, are there any parents here?
Yes. We got some great here.
Yes, well, wherever you are. Thank you. Okay, you don't have to stay, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for coming.
Very well done.
I know the coach. Okay, let's continue. Can we continue with consent calendar, please? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I need to start. We did because we had people signed up for it, and everybody's looking at me like I'm forgetting about it. I am. Public participation. Board welcomes public participation. Asks the speakers please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about the Board of Education personnel and students or against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. First person on the list is Marissa Hayes. Marissa, would you come on up? You know where you sit. We're big army. Okay. It's our first board meeting, so.
Oh. We'll see you.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It's your own personal.
Can I take it off?
I'm sorry, we're new at this, so just bear with us.
No, that's okay. This is my first time speaking, so you have
That's
to bear with
okay.
me. Okay, so my name is Marissa Hayes. I'm the mother of 3 boys and a huge supporter of Kathy O'Dowd's proposal for 2 reasons. I have a young son with a gluten sensitivity, so I understand firsthand what it's like for kids to feel left out and alienated during celebrations. So Kathy's proposal would eliminate that. It will allow the classrooms to find more creative ways where all the kids can participate. I know when the kids are having pizza and cupcakes and my son has a cold turkey sandwich, he's kind of looking around like, this is not fair. So that would definitely help with that. The second part of it is, as a certified health coach, I applaud Kathy for writing this proposal and putting the wheels in motion. I believe our children are constantly having treats, whether it's for school celebrations, birthdays, family events. It's just a ridiculous amount of sugary treats that they're getting. And it definitely ends up, and it's all times of day. So the first time I ever dropped my son off to school, I went in, I was speaking to the teacher, and I noticed a little boy walking around giving everyone a bright blue cupcake, which wouldn't have made me think twice if it wasn't 10 o'clock in the morning. And the teacher just kind of shook it off as, oh, well, he's leaving early, so we're going to have cupcakes now. So this just kind of validates the whole treat any time of day, all times throughout the year, different events. And I think her proposal would eliminate that. And just to summarize, I am a strong advocate of this. I believe she's going in the right direction. She's putting Danbury in the right direction, and other districts will follow suit shortly. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Christina.
Ilardi.
I'm sorry?
Ilardi.
Okay.
I knew I didn't write legibly on there. I am, my name is Christina Harding. I have 3 children, 2 of whom were in the Danbury schools. And I really am speaking about the same proposal and echo Marissa's sentiments, exactly. I jotted down a lot of information here, and I know that I have to keep it concise. My daughter is now in 2nd grade, and she does have a 504 for her food issues. My kids actually have extensive health issues other than food allergies, and they are restricted by, diet-wise more than just by regular allergies, and that came to light in the last year or so. So the inclusion issue, the inclusivity issue, I think is a huge one, because it's not always possible to make an adequate substitution. And I feel like allergy parents are very, in general, accommodating, because we have to be, and we're very, we do as much as we can for our kids to make sure our kids have exactly what the other kids are going to have. But it's become so difficult with the amount of food that's used in the classroom, not only on a celebration level, but in the classroom, in a curriculum, in the curriculum. And there have been many times with my kids where I've had to, with my daughter specifically, where I've had to, last minute I've gotten calls, can she have this, can she have that? Well, we're using it in math today. And putting me on the spot as to whether she can use it. There was a couple of times where the teacher didn't call and just excluded her from the activity. So it's such a difficult thing nowadays with the variability in food allergies and other health issues where kids are food restricted with gluten, with different kinds of dietary, absorption issues and things like that. And there's a lot of food restrictions among kids. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that the CDC released food allergy guidelines, voluntary guidelines for schools to follow last October. And I think that those guidelines are very, very, pertinent, and a lot of districts across the country are using them to change their policies. And just locally, I think Kathy has pointed out that, there is precedent. Westport, Ridgefield, Norwalk, all these districts are starting to go not only celebration food-free, but food-free classrooms. So I'm just going to make 4 points of why I think the food-free celebrations are a good idea across the board, not just for food allergies in general. I think that in general, number one, it creates a larger safety net for all the food allergic students. The classroom celebrations are just one of many risk environments that they are presented with in school. The lunchroom is a huge one. We're not proposing, no one's proposing, nut-free schools or anything like that. So the risk for food allergy students is still there every day. It's just a classroom celebration, elimination of food. So that's number one. Number two, it removes the onus, or you could read liability from teachers and school nurses on discerning food labels. Because as an allergy parent and a nurse, I can tell you that food allergy labeling, the labeling laws are loose, and discerning food allergy labels is tricky. It is something that is extremely scientific. There's a lot of hidden names for things. I've been dealing with food allergies with my kids for 6 years, and only last year learned that lupine was a nut, had cross-reactivity with nuts, and is a product that should be avoided in people with nut allergies. The point being, reading labels is something that teachers and school nurses, really shouldn't have the responsibility on them for. Thirdly, I think it promotes the overall wellness policy by eliminating the gratuitous junk food consumption and encouraging, modeling positive associations of food and celebrations with other things besides food. Fourthly, I think it simply, simplifies necessity, both legal and moral, of inclusion. And that's my main point. You know, is the inclusivity issue. I think is very hard to overlook. There's some students that they can't be substituted for, and if there's one child that is left out, I think that's a legal issue. And there's so much food in the classrooms nowadays that it happens all the time. And some parents are okay and some, with it, and some kids say, but food allergy kids get left out so much in general anyway, that I just think that in the classroom they're entitled to, focus on learning, feel somewhat safe, and and be able to participate as much as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, Angelina.
My name is Angelina Stojakovic, and I have a 6-year-old. He's a kindergartner, and in February he was given food in his classroom as a part of birthday celebration, and that was food that he was allergic to. He's allergic to milk, peanuts, and tree nuts. That day, I don't know what happened, he was given this food. He was given actually a goldfish, a cheddar goldfish, and obviously it contains milk. Luckily, that's actually his medication, that's his treatment, because we were advised by the doctor to give him small amounts of food that contains milk, but in a baked form, so we can build up his immune system. But nobody knew that. So my point was that nobody checked the goldfish that was given to him, and he was the only one who knew that it was safe for him. I'm asking you to adopt this policy, not because I want everybody else to take care of my child. We are raising him to be very responsible because of his allergies, and he's very good, and we do trust him, but he's a 6-year-old. It's very hard, so I'm asking you to adopt this policy, because maybe next time another child will not be as lucky as he was.
Thank you. Monica?
Excuse me. Hi, everyone. I'm Monica Beveloff. I'm the Head Start Director. And Jessie Watson, she's our Senior Program Manager for Head Start. And I know this is on the information session, so just wanted to give you like a brief overview of our outcomes report, and then I have something from Jim Maloney, who couldn't be here tonight. Just so you know, our outcomes report is based on the curriculum we use, which is Teaching Strategies Gold, and the creative curriculum is our assessment piece. Thanks. And it's fully aligned with the Connecticut state standard. Fully aligned with the Connecticut state standards and also the Head Start standards. So I just wanted to let you know that that's how we are measuring our children. Children in our part day program are measured 3 times a year. We get a baseline in the fall, we measure growth in the spring, and then again at the end of the year. And our full day children are measured once again at the end of the summer. And I don't need to go over each domain, just to tell you that in each domain the children have shown tremendous growth in just a short period of time of 3 months. And again, we look towards this to individualize for children and for classroom instruction and for teacher support. Does anybody need a copy of this?
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
questions? Okay. There you go. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. And to just also, I haven't been to a board meeting yet this year, but to thank the board. It's been a transition year for us, I think, but we're sort of settling in now. So just thank you again for all your support. Jim, we had our board meeting tonight, so he couldn't be here, but he has addressed a letter to each of you just on the state of our funding and the program.
Good, thank you very much.
Nice job.
I should put them in order.
May we do our consent calendar now?
That the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar as recommended, Exhibit 14-84 through 14-86.
Sure. Second from Gladys. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Abstain? Are you abstaining?
Yeah, because I wasn't here.
Okay, Richard abstained. I'm sorry, Mr. Ginelli.
Sorry.
Do we have an employee representative here that would like to speak? None, seeing none, we'll move on to our student representatives. I see Mr. Pitts is here. Would you like to speak, sir?
Hello. Okay. How are you guys doing today? My name is Nick Getz, and I'm the Board of Governors President for Danbury High School. First off, I would like to say and let you guys know, I'm sure most of you guys know about the $100,000 that we won from State Farm and Celebrate My Drive. The students at Danbury High School, and as well as the staff, put a tremendous amount of effort into this campaign. And we just want to thank all of you guys that participated in this. And the benefits are slowly getting here. And we recently put in 10 tables outside in the courtyard to benefit the students that are usually out there. And we did that this Monday. And students are already out there eating and enjoying the weather, and hopefully the weather brightens up a little bit more. And then we got the A-OK on the electrical sign, and that's going to be a huge part of Danbury High School, and it's going to welcome visitors from around the state and from local community to Danbury High School. So some of the activities that are going on at Danbury High School is the Junior Prom, and that's going to be at the Amber Room, May 9th. And the theme is the Roaring 20s, a Gatsby affair, and that's going to be fully catered with a DJ and a light show as well. Next we have Senior Prom, which is going to take place on May 23rd. That's at the Matrix, and the theme is the last night on the Titanic, and that's also going to be fully catered, and there's going to be a DJ and a light show. I would like to talk to you about the sports at Danbury High School, and you saw the basketball team. We have a great and phenomenal sports team, and everyone, the spring sports teams are off to a great start, and I hope we have more FCIAC champs, and hopefully state champions as well. And then the Danbury BOE chapter is going to the national conference in Atlanta, Georgia, May 2nd to May 7th, and they're going to be presenting their projects such as Celebrate My Drive and many more. So hopefully we have some winners.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Nick, would you describe where the sign is going outside? People had questions.
The sign is going right where we have a little sign, some call it the tombstone sign. Yes. It's not the best way to call it, but it's going to go right in front of the school, and it's going to be, I'm not too sure about the dimensions, but it's going to be big. It's going to be big. You guys are definitely going to see it.
It's going to be on the front lawn?
Yes, correct. It's going to be...
It says turn into main.
Right. When you turn into the main entrance, you'll see it. It's going to be
But you're going to be able to see it from the road, too.
Yes. Yes. And there's going to be all the announcements and everything.
So you went to zoning?
Yes, we did.
Is there a restriction on time?
Yes. We only have one message up a day. So, I mean, it works.
Well, they don't want it flashing, so.
Yes, we can't have it flashing.
Can't flash.
Is there a time that has to be shut off?
I believe it's 9 o'clock.
9?
9 o'clock, yes.
When you guys have, that's your curfew, right?
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Just like your sons.
Yeah, right.
Alrighty, where's my A's people? Come on up.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, bag. There goes the chips.
Nice touch.
Students at ACE during the month of students at ACE during the month.
And introduce yourselves, please. I'm sorry.
Students at ACE during the month of April participated in 2 hiking trips as part of our outdoor education program. 10 students and teachers Kyle Tricola, and John Weber chaperoned the recent trip this week at the Appalachian Trail.
ACE will be hosting a parent meeting on Thursday, April 24th at 5:30. Dinner will be provided for parents in addition of presenting given by the members of Positive Discipline of Western Connecticut to parents to hopefully enlist parents to participate in a 6-week seminar regarding the use of positive discipline with their associates.
During the month of May, ACE will host visitations for students that may be interested in attending in the fall. 41 students are scheduled to visit during the month of May.
Seniors will be visiting 2 colleges during the month of May, Lincoln Tech School in Shelton, and Ridley and Lowell in Danbury.
5 seniors from ACE completed their financial aid forms in April through a special session at WCSU. All 5 students were awarded $5,000 or more in a Pell Grant to assist with college tuition in the fall.
That's great. Very good. And thank you very, very much. Thanks for coming. I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right.
All right. Presentation. Pembroke and Studley Road schools are here with their governance councils. You want to come on up?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Edie Thomas. I'm the principal at Pembroke Elementary School, and we were invited to talk about our school governance league team. And I've got to be honest, when we found out we were elected to have the school governance council, we were not thrilled. And there was no high-fiving or good guys or go get it. But then we had to hunker down and do what we needed to do. So I'm really very excited about our committee. We have amazing people that are on it and that are very dedicated. We did not have a problem at all finding anyone to serve in any capacity. We had all our teachers, we had not reached 10 teachers. We selected 5. I did that whole process, and then we had parents that volunteered. My goodness, we had about 22 parents, and we narrowed it down to 7 parents. So we even have a pool, so if somebody drops off, we can also add them back in and add a parent that was voted on already. Tonight I didn't think it was about me because after you set up the council, I sit on the board just as an advisor. So I thought I would turn it over to who is the president. He's also a 4th grade teacher at Pembroke. His name is Edwin Pena. But I have to tell you about Edwin. Edwin went to Pembroke. Edwin went to Broadview. Edwin went to Danbury High School and Westcon, and now he's serving in the Danbury Public Schools. So we are really thrilled to have him. And also we have Ms. Clifford, who is on our team as well, and she's also on our PTO, which is amazing. She's our president. So I'm going to turn it over to Edwin.
Good evening. I'm Edwin. I teach 4th grade at Pembroke. I just want to talk about something that we're working on right now at the school. With the school governance. We're working on repaving our parking lot. It's a lot of going on there. It's a bit of a mess there, so we're working on that, getting it paved again, and trying to see how to work on that. Another big thing we're working on is we are doing a summer reading night in May 13th, I think. And we're only focusing on our ELL parents, so it's going to be a night just for them, and we're going to do it all in Spanish for them, they can know what to do over the summer, because many of them fall back in the summer for the reading. So it's all going to be in Spanish. I have other teachers that are staying that speak Spanish that are going to help me out. The ELL person is going to help me out as well. So it's all going to be in Spanish. We're going to the government is going to help me do a great game night as well. We're going to model read alouds, model what they should be asking their children over the summer. And a book fair is going to be out there too. Yeah, and we'll have Spanish books as well for them. And just really working on them and telling them what they should be doing and telling them about the DRAs and just kind of including them more in and just doing it just in Spanish so they can really work with their students. Another thing we're working on is response time for emergency services. We noticed that when we call, if there's an emergency, it takes a really long time for them to get to Pembroke. We're kind of the forgotten school. So we're working on that. That's what we're working on this year. Next year we have already some ideas going. We're going to do Common Core night, and just to work on with parents. We already have math and reading night, but just to work on concepts that students need to help in, and the parents need help as well. So we're looking to do it as you work with your child together to learn on a concept. Like for 4th grade, work some multiplication facts or problems that they've been doing all year that the parents don't know how to do in this Common Core. We're also looking to do a bilingual lending library. We're going to try to start that in the fall and start in kindergarten. So that's what. Thank you.
And just real quick before we leave, any information you want is on our school website, so please go up there. We have information, our agenda, as well as every minute. So if you don't want to come to Pembroke, just go on our website. All the information is there. Thank you very much.
Kowski?
Good evening, I'm Ed Wachowski, Principal of Stanley Ruff.
I'm Tasha Gordon, I'm a parent at Stanley Ruff, and also filling in as the chairperson for the committee.
We're in the 3rd year now of our School Governance Council, and I have to say we've been very busy over the past couple of years working on a lot of initiatives. One of the things that we began to work on last year was the creation of a family school compact, and I have copies of the compacts to pass out to you. We created a compact for each grade level, kindergarten through 5th grade, and the compact outlines what we would want the responsibilities to be of both the school, of the home, and of the students and of the parents. And one key piece of that compact that we implemented this year was a place where each marking period students could create a goal for themselves, a learning goal for themselves for that marking period. And the way we're working it is each student has a compact, and the original gets kept in their classroom until the end of the school year. Each marking period, they at the beginning, they create a goal for themselves. A copy of that is sent home so parents know what the goal is that their student is working on. And then as we get to the end of the marking period and to the beginning of the next marking period, they evaluate how well they're doing toward that goal and then create a new goal. Either, if they've achieved their first one, they might create something different. If they partially achieved it, they might want to modify it somehow along those lines. So that's one thing that we really worked on a lot last year was getting the compact in place. We had input from parents, from the teachers, as to what types of information we wanted included. We wanted to put in there what we expected the key learning outcomes to be at the end of each grade level so parents would understand what we would want their students to end that grade being able to learn, and also what the expectations we have for parents to help support that learning at home. So that was one initiative that really spanned a lot of last year in getting it put together and then being put in place this year. Another thing that we worked on last year as well was we were thinking more, at that point, philosophically about, parent involvement. We were noticing, just looking at some data about our parent involvement in different activities, we saw that that involvement wasn't to the level that we would have wanted. So we were working on what are some things that we could do to help improve that. So one thing we did was to come up with just a parent involvement policy, which is just, our philosophy of what we consider parent involvement to be, ways that parents can be involved in the learning of their children, and all of that. And then what we decided to do is to then this year break our council into basically 2 subcommittees, you could say. One of those subcommittees was focusing on specific ways to help improve parental involvement. And what we've decided to try to do is to create what we call parent liaisons at each grade level. Our school is a very diverse school, and we have a very large Spanish-speaking population as well as Portuguese-speaking population. So what we are trying to do is identify parents, a core group of parents at each grade level that could serve in this role of a parent liaison. And we're still ironing out, what the specifics of that would be. But the idea is that these would be a group of parents that, we could call upon to help for example, if there's an important event that we really want a great turnout for, we really feel we want parents to come, being able to make that personal connection, to make a phone call to families, to be able to say, you know what, we're having this information night, it's really important that you come. We're finding that, when we are able to make that more personal connection through a phone call versus just, a notice or a robocall, that the response is a lot greater. But it's very difficult to do that without the manpower to be able to do that. So that's, one thing. We also, thinking about and getting some feedback from parents and especially newer parents, that we're thinking that it would be a nice thing for, especially new families, new parents to our school, to be able to have other parents that they can connect with. Many times that's very difficult. A new family may want to somehow become involved in the school, get involved in an activity, but maybe isn't sure, doesn't know anyone. So if, when they register, we're able to say, your child's going into second grade, and these are the parents that are the parent liaisons for your grade level, that they'll, if you have any questions, if you want to talk to them, if you want, to see how you can get involved, anything that you might want to talk about that you might not feel comfortable yet coming to the teacher or to someone in the school about, they would be able to serve in that role. So we're hoping to get the plans for that finalized this year and to be able to put that in place next year. This year we've also worked on creating and implementing evenings for parents on the Common Core standards. And we found those to be very helpful and the turnout really to be very good for those. In the fall we did a general evening where we just presented you general information about the standards, what were some of the major shifts that are part of those standards, and some of the ways that things may be taught differently now because of that. And then we held two grade-specific evenings for parents where we delved into specific strategies that they would see that their children would be working on with regard to the standards. At the end of January, we did a night for parents in grades 3, 4, and 5, and we had teachers help out with those. We had 3 different breakout sessions, so each parent was put in a group, and then each group was able to, in a different order, attend each of the 3 sessions. And we had 2 sessions focusing on a math strategy that they made, that's a part of the new standards, and then 1 focused on literacy. And then we did the same format at the end of March for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. And the feedback that we got was very positive. The parents really found the information helpful. They had an opportunity to really take some time to understand and work with their child some of the strategies that are a part of the Common Core standards. So that's one main thing that we've been working on this year. And Tasha, do you want to talk about the literacy piece?
Sure. So we started with the Common Core and the parent liaison. And now we're kind of finishing up the Common Core. We've just done those 3 sessions. So we've spun it into a literacy group. So we've really only met on this once, I think. But so this will take us through the end of this year and starting into next year. But we've noticed when we do competitions with the kids in reading and different events, it really piques the kids' interest and it kind of pulls in the whole parent involvement piece of this that we've been focusing on. So we've talked about several different things that we can do, whether it's having the older grade students come and share with the younger grade students at the end of the year what books they're going to be reading the following year, kind of starting some excitement. We talked about having an author come into school and doing an assembly. So just kind of generating some ideas to keep everything, keep reading cool, I guess. And the whole parental involvement really focused around literacy at our school. The reading logs and just parents reading at home with the kids and stuff has really been a focus of ours. So we want to, whatever we decide on those literacy groups is to kind of pull the parents in and really make them see how much impact it has.
So I think that's pretty much where we are now. I think, as we were preparing our notes for this evening, we, kind of looked at and thought and looked at what we've done and said, wow, we really accomplished a lot over the past year, 2 years actually, I would say. So we're excited about the work we've done and we're excited about the ideas we have moving forward.
Thanks. We have a question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, these are wonderful. I think they're positive. It's very clear, and it really sets a tone. And I think to start the year that way, just from a parent point of view and a teacher point of view, easy to read. It's not just a handbook full of stuff, something you've just captured quickly, those things that you want to focus on. And I'm just curious, are you going to do a kindergarten one? Because I have 1 through 5 here. Do you have a kindergarten?
We do. We have,
okay. I didn't get
we
it.
just
All
passed
right.
assorted ones
All
around.
right.
We have one for
Well,
each
I
grade.
took one of every grade level,
Okay.
but the kindergarten wasn't available.
Oh, okay.
So I was just...
Dan Rose, please.
Thank you, because...
Are these copyright?
Well, I know where you're going from, because you never know. And the teacher goals for each, you captured what each grade level would be working on, and I think that's a great way to start. So I appreciate the time and effort in this, because to me it's very clear.
Thank you.
How many are on the account? I'm sorry. I was just curious, how many do you have on?
How many members?
On your account, exactly.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to have, we've had, unfortunately, we had a couple of people have to drop out in the course of the year for other commitments. So we're in the process of elections for next year. But we did have 7 parents and 5 teachers. So unfortunately, I think 2 of our parents, right, throughout the course of the year, couldn't keep the commitments. So we have right now 5 parents, 5 teachers, and 1 community member.
And we're also looking for 2
Yes.
community members next year, so if you know anybody, send them
Yes.
our way.
That's one of the hardest roles of the council to fill, as a community members. So we definitely, if anyone has a recommendation of someone who you think might be interested, please let me know, and we'll reach out to them. Definitely.
Thanks. Who got to stay here? Can't you be a community member and a parent? Apparently,
Can you be a community member and a parent?
No.
Member at large.
Parent at a different school.
But not in the school, not in the same
Oh,
school.
not in any
Could be.
You
can't be there, the code is pretty prescriptive.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, what was it?
No, I'm saying, you say, can you be the rep and the community member, is that what you're?
No, you can't be, they just told me. Somebody else could, and Rose could.
Another parent from another school,
Yes.
but you cannot be a parent and a community member if your child is.
Also, Ralph, you could be.
Can I?
Yes, what if your kids are in grade
No, I would not recommend a Board of Education member be part of this advice. It's not a, you could attend and be there much, but that's not a role. It's meant to have, let me just tell you something. It's meant to advise the principal, and a board liaisons go and listen, which is enriching, but they want the community at large to participate because they can make connections throughout the community. It could be someone from the State Department, someone in the business community. It doesn't really have to be a Danbury resident. In fact, George Coleman was one of the high school, who was the ex-commissioner of schools for a year. So you could select someone that as well.
So we'll work on that.
Good.
Because we're big community people. Okay. Next. Just don't read. Oh, we have one more. I'm so sorry. Please, healthy food certification. Hi. Done by. Yes, there you are.
Is that on?
Thank you. Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Janine Giordano, and I'm the operations manager for the school lunch program here at Danbury. I'm also the district's resident dietitian. So I wanted to take just a moment to talk to you guys about healthy food certification. This is something that we've been doing here in Danbury for quite a while now, and as we look towards new nutrition policies and procedures that we potentially want to put in place here, I think it's also important to recognize what we've been doing and what we continue to do again next year, which is this healthy food certification. Basically, the healthy food certification is a set of guidelines that were set in place by the Connecticut State Department of Education that focuses on limiting total fats, trans fats, saturated fats, sodium, and sugars, while putting a more positive light on things that we want children to eat more of, which would be our vegetables, our fruits, our whole grains, lean meats, legumes, and low-fat dairy. Everyone should have a drawstring bag. Inside there is a handout with all this information on it. And also in that drawstring bag, you'll find some of the snacks that we offer currently in our district that fall under this healthy food certification. Basically, healthy food certification applies to all foods that are sold to students outside of the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program. So this applies to everything sold to students. Districts must recertify annually, and for the districts that do certify compliance, there is a reimbursement to the National School Lunch Program of 10 cents per reimbursable lunch. So the foods that are included in this healthy food certification are the foods sold at our school stores, our vending machines, our school cafeterias, and our fundraising activities that are done on school premises, whether or not they're sponsored by the school. There is one exception that we make here in Danbury, and that is that for foods that are sold at an event occurring outside of the regular school day, which according to the Connecticut State Department of Education is defined as the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. And for these foods to be sold, the sale must be at the location of the event, meaning it couldn't be sold in our cafeteria, in our vending machines, or at our school stores. We want only the foods that are going to be deemed healthy by the state of Connecticut. This event would, focus on something that was not a regular scheduled thing, like not a soccer practice, but if it was a soccer game, that would count. So once again, this only applies to foods that are sold to students, not necessarily foods that are given to students, such as something like a classroom celebration. This would not count for that. But that being said, Danbury's wellness policy discourages outside food for classroom celebrations like we heard earlier today. So does anyone have any questions for me regarding healthy food certification?
Anyone?
Wonderful. Okay, great. I'll be passing on the information to Dr. Sal so that we can become certified again for the 2014-2015 year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, our action items.
Okay. That the Board of Education accept the March 2014 operating results analysis from the general fund in accordance with 14-87.
Second.
Is there any discussion, questions? Richard?
Joe, can you just elaborate regarding the encumbrance summary, expense and encumbrance summary? I mean, I'm looking at it and reading it and then analyzing the numbers afterwards. And we're looking at about an $8.5 million surplus?
No.
That's how I read it, so explain, please.
What happens every month, for example, our health insurance claims are hit monthly, so there's no projection against this. This is current state of your current budget as of right now. Expenditures are, encumbrance for payroll, for example, salaries are fully booked for the year. We don't book in advance our health insurance contributions. So therefore, that's why you see those encumbrances. Also, there's additional expenses against supply accounts and other items we'll draw down throughout the year.
Is there any way to revise or revamp this summary page then to be inclusive of, those items, those line items? And again, from looking at it, I read it as an $8 million surplus. Now I realize it's not there.
Yeah.
But
the way the report is designed and the way it's in a sense set up, it's a current state of balance. We can certainly make projections against that. That can certainly be done.
Well, what you do is encumbrance, right?
Correct. You can cover more of health insurance.
Right.
It's a little complicated in our software, but it can be done.
Okay.
But
it's
an
effectively
an accrual
for potential cost that you have.
Correct. Yeah, the health insurance is obviously the largest
It's
component.
just expenditure that hasn't taken place, but you're obligated, theoretically, you're obligated for it. The timing of it hasn't taken place.
Yeah, well, we can certainly put an encumbrance against for health insurance. That's obviously the big driver within that. Social Security we book as the payrolls hit as well. That's the other item there.
Or just maybe how you noted it, including non-payroll, you could maybe note it again that these are what you had just said, things that we haven't paid for yet.
Right.
So that someone looking at it would read it that way and understand that.
So for sake of argument, of the 8.7 that's represented on that encumbrance summary,
yes,
7.4 is related to benefits, if I read this
correct.
correctly?
You also have within the benefits ongoing contributions from your employees that get booked against that account monthly. You also have self-insurance pieces for what are known as self-pay retirees. Those deposits are booked monthly. So there's additional items that will get booked against the health insurance account, as well as obviously drawdowns will hit the account.
Claim history is still running extremely positive in our
Claim
favor?
history is, as you'll see in my notes right now, I'm kind of upping our projections for reserve. I believe we can produce at least about a $1,250,000 reserve over to the city at year end. We were tracking around $1 million. Claims are still holding strong. I was anticipating as the HSAs and folks move on the deductible scale, we'd see increased use when we have them. So those are holding well.
We should put that account about a 1.5 million for the insurance account.
Right now, I'm looking at $1,250,000 right now. But that was
Would you have from last year? Would you have from last year?
Last year we have $500,000.
That's what I'm saying, the combination.
The combination right now would put the board at a 1.75.
You can't negotiate some of that to be offset to the current proposal to reduce our budget?
You remember when we went down this road with HSA, towns have gotten themselves into trouble where the reserves have not been able to take care of the expenditure that comes over the summer, therefore they open up in September with a shortcoming at the end of the year. So we've been advised to have how much in there actually.
The actual board reserve is about $5 million to fully fund the corridor.
That was over a period of time. We were supposed to have $5 million. Also, correct. But on one hand, we're giving back 1.2, and the other hand, we're losing 1.5.
Right.
So, I mean, it seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're saying, I have extra money, here's the extra money. On the other hand, I'm talking about the city, it's telling us that we have to cut $1.5 million from our budget because the city can't afford it. So, if you're projecting a $6 million reserve over a period of 5 years, why can't you just fund half of that this year and try to fund the rest of it in subsequent years and catch up when maybe the deduction force or reduction of the budget is not that great?
If we take a hit next year on claim, for example, right now the claim trend is very healthy. If claims do head south as it did a year and a half ago, we could be in front of the council for money. And we wouldn't advise the board to do it.
But the claim history so far is favorable, right?
It
So
is.
you're saying it's a risk.
Oh, it definitely. I mean, it's a risk no matter what, no question.
It's a risk that towns, I don't know if this is the right forum for conversation. A number of towns have gone into the road, and it's a way of mitigating unfunded expenditures from the town. And it's not an advised way of operating this particular account, because we've had to have a compact with the city to go self-insured, that if we would run short, they would have to pick up the tab. And knowing that this savings exclusively has been for a health savings account, and our contract verbally anyway has been that money would go right into that fund to protect us if in fact we have an unusually bad year, or help us with the health care account for mitigating the increase as well.
If we had quite a few years underneath HSA programs and self-insurance trends, I would probably feel a lot more comfortable about doing that. But right now, we are very early. You've got major contracts switching over. You always typically have increased use when you're doing major plan changes, particularly with teachers, which is our
But
largest.
next year, in the presentation for next year's budget, it was predicated based on a favorable claim trend.
Oh, it is.
So conceivably, best case scenario, next year you could have another $1 million surplus. Meanwhile, we cut $1.5 million out of our budget. I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I know, it's just, you run the risk of that, I call it a delicate balancing act with claim. And, like I said, this year's been a very, very, very good year for claim history. And coming out of what last year looked like, it's almost the point of confusing, I'll say.
Yes, I'd just like to point out that, like you said, over time, we just got into this. But I'm just thinking of what the state does and what the federal government does, dipping into all the reserves. And we don't have the luxury. I believe by law, we cannot go over budget. Am I right on this, or
Yes.
am I wrong?
You're not permitted to go.
You're not permitted
Okay,
to
so I
without counsel.
think, this is something you don't want to jump into, robbing from the reserve fund in. I mean, I'm pretty liberal on all, but I've seen what governments have done and by shifting funds out, reserve funds and safety funds and so forth. And I don't think the history is very good. Maybe in the future, but I think we have to let it ride for a while so we sort of get an even keel of what really is the expectations. Like you said, we could have 1 year of great claims, another year poor claims, but the thing is 2 years is not enough to build up a statistical record. So I guess I'd have to say fiscally on this one, I'm pretty conservative.
We are reviewing claim for budget right now. We do see a reduction in health insurance based on our claim trend as well. So without going down there, dipping into the reserve realm, I do see a further reduction. Actually, the board going negative on our renewal information.
Thanks. Anybody else with any questions? Questions, statements? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you.
That the Board of Education accept the March 2014 operating results analysis for grants and projects as exhibited in 14-88.
Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All righty.
That the Board of Education approve the submission of the ECS Alliance District Grant in accordance with 14-89.
I hear a second. Second. Any discussion? Dr. Glass, would you like to speak? Nobody's speaking. Okay. Nobody has any questions? Nobody has any discussion? All in favor?
If I may, Dr. Glass, I'm sorry, no changes from original proposals?
Correct.
As I read it?
Correct.
Okay. Preliminary reports were all fine and in sync with the state as far as everything that you previously had provided to them?
We're 100% in alignment with their expectations. We submitted the grant with a note on it saying pending Board of Education approval.
Right.
And the cursory review already from the previous consultant who just left, we have a new one assigned to us. But she looked at our plan and said this is perfectly in alignment with where we're going as a state. So we're in good shape with it.
Okay. I believe we asked, or perhaps I may have even asked, that the previous budget, which had the ECS Alliance grant, which we're funding Head Start, can we move that money around? Do we have access to that to possibly offer it into any type of operational budgets?
Two ways of answering. One is that it's a cumulative 1.7, 4.4, 6.6. So that money comes in, and the 4.4 is already accounted for. And the board does have discretion to move within that. For example, some of our training costs have subsided because we're building capacity, so we can reshuffle the deck in a sense. The caveat with this is that, first of all, it has to be substantially new, and number two, it has to be promoting the closing of the achievement gap. So, give you a silly example, if we wanted to put on a new bus, we couldn't make a nexus between putting a new bus and closing the achievement gap. That becomes our challenging part, and that's when we vetted with the state. We said, do you think this will go through? Do you think that will go through?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Glass. Next.
That the Board of Education approve a 10-cent increase in school lunch prices for the 2014-2015 school year in accordance with 14-90.
Second. Seconded. Anybody? Any discussion? Any questions? Do you know?
I thought it was explained that it was pretty much what we had to do to keep.
State mandated increase of the dime. In my world, I'd like to go up a nickel. That's typically what we like to do, but we're forcing our hand on this. We have to increase it.
It's almost like there is no discussion about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of federal funding linked to this.
Right, the state said it. All right. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? No, it's okay. All right, we're on to the superintendent.
November, okay. We had a legislative meeting on April 11th. Those of you that attended, thank you. We went through much of the unfunded mandates. We had a good conversation about special education, teacher evaluation, use of pesticides, which we think doesn't add any value to the work that we do and actually could be more interest to our students, and they carried that through for us. The DCF regulations on reporting mandates and some of the unknown factors on those of us that are mandated reporters. The uniform chart of accounts, I know we've talked about that. My belief there is that they're going to move it for another year of study. Right, Joe?
Yeah, another year. There's a pilot program about 5 to 7 districts.
The uniform regional calendar, they're asking to delay that another year, because the purpose of that was to try to have aligned districts, and many districts are involved in different contracts for busing. So to have an alignment, they would like to have another year. So as you recall, next year is voluntary. So we have a regional. A year from next September, it was a requirement. They're saying go another year before they have a mandated calendar. And the talking points on the Common Core in terms of when we actually spoke with them, the Common Core was it was on the table for possible putting in a moratorium on, but that didn't go anywhere. So we're still operating down there. So I thank all of you for coming. We also decided it was a good enough thing to have again. We already have a legislative day scheduled for November 14, 2014. Where we can be a little more proactive in introducing things. Well, perhaps they can mold some of the current legislation that's going on. We already got that on the books with everyone. I think overall it was a very good meeting, and I thank everybody for coming. Copy of bid, Joe?
Copy of bid, just to update the board. We did go out to bid for our 4-year copy lease. The bid was posted 2 weeks ago, advertised in the News Times Friday and Sunday. We had a pre-bid meeting over April break. 12 vendors in total showed up to the meeting. It wasn't a mandatory meeting, but a lot of good questions, and the bids will close April 30th. I'll report back to the board probably by, I hope about mid-May, and the process after that will be we have to get to the council for approval of the lease in June and get copiers placed through July.
This is the 5th year of our current copy.
This is the 5th year. Everyone's heard the complaints. The copiers are very broken at this point and in sorry shape. So we're all happy to see them leave.
Facility update. You heard about Pembroke. We've been looking at that. The parking lot has been a problem, but we talked to the city. They've been putting some cold treatment on it, and they're going to try to get some regular treatment on it, I guess. We're going to need to look at that down the road. There was a fund to be doing parking lots, and not sure what all happened there, but we need, particularly this last winter, and the winter before, things are really breaking apart. So we talked to Duke Hart, it was on Monday, I think it was, this Monday morning. He was good. They had some cold stuff on they were repairing on Tuesday. We have some other parking lots that need some help as well.
Yeah, we also have some playgrounds that are in very tough shape too. We're going to have a conversation with the city on them. And there's some broken issues on a few that we need to kind of address.
We are, as of last night it was reinforced, we are planning on taking over the new middle school as of July 1st. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
So we're excited about that. We're going to go over and do a walkthrough. We also had the 2020 committee meet, as you know, and we did have our enrollment projections done by Peter Browder, who confirmed that the square footage we have at the high school, which is 454,000 square feet, and the number of students we have, we far surpassed the requirement for reimbursement. So we are in need of additional space. So that was good news. We'll be going up to the high school to search out some possibilities with the city probably next week, and then we'll call for a new 2020 committee meeting. Is there anything else on facilities? Any of the roofs that you want to talk about?
No, it's, Moore Street roof right now is still pending at the state. Rick Plonzo and I went up for a state review about 3 weeks ago, waiting for the approval letter on that. Osborne Street roof has already been bid. They're trying to get that scheduled for replacement. And Great Plain is in the process of going through its motions to get the approval.
Design?
Yeah, design for Great Plain for replacement.
It will be impacting our summer school and those schools, right?
Yeah, all 3 schools under construction, plus Great Plain as well.
I'm sorry.
Could you just clarify, you said that someone said DHS surpassed the need, who was the person that?
Peter Prada, but go ahead.
Yeah, Peter Prada is a demographer that's done work for the Board of Education and many boards around the state. He also actually worked for the state years ago. And he did a review of square footage and the number of students. I believe we're about 7% over capacity as of right now.
And having him do this, does that give us any more leverage with the state in case we needed to increase? Like, by him doing this, do we then have a little bit more, stronghold to say?
It does.
Over
It makes
capacity, and do we have more state funding? Can we get more because of it?
No, but you won't get more. Everything's based on your school construction amount that's set by the state, which is 63% for Danbury. What it does is Peter makes an excellent case and very clearly articulates all the pieces the state looks for in the document.
Okay.
So therefore, it makes the approval process much faster.
And it becomes stronger, maybe.
much.
Because
And we now have.
We had some pushback with the middle school. He did a study, and actually his write-up was very helpful into setting, going down the good path. So he's somewhat influential. They know his work is solid.
And it reconfirms Ross Habert's numbers that he did as well. And we weren't necessarily looking at high school when we did those enrollments, but the projections are fairly close to each other, which is always a good thing.
So based on that, we'd be looking to do something in the future relative to the fiscal expansion in the high school.
Yeah, an add-on to the, we're debating different.
It doesn't have to be an add-on, but it has to be something. Right? I mean, it could be maybe sites, other sites for the high school, right?
I think that the committee focused on additions. We talked about bricks and mortars. Then we talked about remote sites as well, combination of both. So, if something doesn't work, you need to go to plan 2 kind of stuff. We were there, we did the middle school. So we need to start that process is what we're saying. And he's going to start. But the study was key to getting that done. Okay. City Council Education Budget Committee we had last night. Our budget was submitted. The mayor's budget was less than we requested, and that was approved by the committee as a recommendation to the mayor. So we'll be after that May 2nd.
It's the first Tuesday, May 6th.
And at that point, then we'll know, but we'll begin working on the recommendations. We'll be prepared. As you know, every position we do look at, whether or not that we need it. We also put a lot of them on hold pending what's happening here. So we're just going to have to work through all that. We have a better number on the high school now with class selection, so we're able to look at that better. The closer we get to May, the better we are, particularly at the high school. We have we have somewhere in the vicinity of 245 courses that are offered. And in the selection process with all the courses that we have, some of them aren't sustained. They have to move some of them around. So we have a better notion of that. So we'll be working on reductions in anticipation of hopefully some of the bids that are coming in will come in better to help us with the amounts. And I thank the board members for being there, and the team, cabinet, did an exceptional job in explaining in detail the information. Joey did a great job in the presentation and the formation of the budget slides, so thank you for that. So I remember it very well. Debbie, nice job on the special education. That's a big part of our budget and explaining that to the people. Thanks. That's it?
That's it? Okay, Richard.
I concur. The presentation last night was awesome, was excellent. And again, congratulations. It was just terrific. I think it set the tone for something we haven't had in the past, which is a great honor. And the togetherness of everybody working together. Not being familiar with numbers, I'm a little bit lost on something. The number thrown out last night by David said there was a difference of 975,000, and then the other number that was stuck in my mind is the differential was 1.5. So that's somewhere like a $500,000 difference. I got lost in the shuffle. How did we minimize our reduction?
The Board of Education's increase total is $3.5 million. Within that increase is the $214,000 for Head Start. As the board knows, there was a pass-through that used to come to the board through the years, and that is counted in your increase for next year. So
that's just a pass-through.
Correct. So your net Board of Education increase is 3.28, $3,280,000, because the $214,000 is counted as part of your increase.
So then the true difference for us would be the 275 plus the 214, correct?
Yes.
Or $1 million or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
I knew the anesthesia bothered my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 214 plays into that part.
So it's 975 plus the 214 is what we have to look to.
Yes, approximately 1.4 million.
No, it doesn't add. It's like 1.4 and 1.1 are different.
No.
214 and 975, I'm trying to do the math right.
Let me pull up my sheets here. Because if not, I want to misspeak. Let's see.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
You can get back to me on that if you want. I just
the board
lost on the difference in the numbers, and it was sort of made light of last night that you had enough in utility estimated billings to cover the 975.
The total increase by the Board of Education was we requested $4.6 million. The net increase, there's health and welfare dollars in the city's budget. I was trying to bring up actually the direct document inside the city's budget. I have to pull it up. I thought I had it here.
Okay, but not to take everybody's
Yeah.
time. Okay, but that's my concern is what we were operating on initially when the numbers first came out versus what came out last night. And it was that $500,000 difference now turned down to a couple of $300,000 difference. Okay.
Anne Marie, you have a question?
Can you just explain to me again what the 214 is?
In years past, there was pieces that made up the Head Start funding that came to Danbury, came to the Board of Ed. There's a federal portion that came to us, a state portion, and as well as a city contribution, and also the board's contribution.
So four different
sources.
Federal,
City, and
Board of Ed. 4 different sources for funding for Head Start.
Take the federal and state out of it. The board's portion was the 485, and the city portion was the 214.
Okay, when you say the board's
portion was inside your actual Board of Education budget, general fund dollars.
Right, that was,
The
which
485.
used to be there.
Yeah, then we moved it over into
And
ECS.
it's now under ECS.
Yes.
The 214 is?
214 was city dollars that came into the Board of Education, exclusive of your budget allocation. That was $214,000 was earmarked for Head Start.
So regardless of what my budget might be, that 214, the city was giving them anyway.
That came to us for our staff and our portion of Head Start.
And they make that, huh? Okay, so it's the city, okay, I just wanted to clarify.
But now, the way Head Start is transitioned over, that's now coming in a sense, it's going to still be a pass-through to the Board of Education over to Head Start.
Okay, but it's the city giving them. All right.
Hey, do I see any other questions?
mud.
There's mud. You want to be first? I'm going to do B. Since we're on the subject, we're going to B. Who's going to talk about it?
Food allergies. It's on the budget and the wellness part. Kathy, do you want to come on? I thought we would get an opportunity to talk about last night, Kathy.
Yes, I can talk about the policy meeting that we had, and I'm glad that Kathy O'Dowd is here tonight. She is our health services coordinator, and at our meeting, we were lucky enough to also have Dr. Fong, who is our district medical advisor. So we had a lively discussion, and Kathy, I'd like you to present to the full board and recap exactly why you think that this is a safety issue for the children.
This came about fairly recently in the school year. We were looking back at the food celebrations that take place monthly in the classrooms. Currently, the practice is that the students are permitted a once-a-month food celebration. That's usually what they do with their birthdays. It's something that's done at the discretion of the classroom teacher. It's something that's permitted. It's not something that's required. Up to this point, we have had only store-bought food items permitted to come to these celebrations, and that is for safety reasons because of the students that we do have with food allergies. And currently, the nurses have been checking the foods, the food labels. The teachers are aware of who has children with food allergies in their classes. Unfortunately, we've had some times where that's been bypassed, and we've had some accidental or near accidental exposures to food allergens. So in looking at the current practices and the authoritative sources that we use for our policies, I thought it was time that we just step up our safety measures. I think we've been doing a good job, but I think that we can do better. And the key is safety for the children. And as Mrs. Ilardi had alluded to before, it's very, very difficult to interpret some of these food labels. If you've ever read a food label, some of the names you really can't even pronounce. And there are many hidden food ingredients. A great deal of cross-contamination is possible. So it's my feeling that for the health and safety of all of our students in the district, not just one child or one class, the proposal is to eliminate outside food from these classroom celebrations. I had a meeting with all of the principals, and we discussed this, and one of the agreements that we came to was that at the elementary level, children bring their own snack every day. So if they feel they cannot get past having an alternative celebration, such as 15 minutes of extra recess, having a guest reader, having a student do a particular show and tell about them, any other way to make the child feel special on their birthday, that the snack time where the children bring their own individual snack would be acceptable.
And that the free and reduced children.
Yes, free and reduced children, sometimes there's children that don't have a snack, and the principals have agreed that it would be acceptable to get something from the cafeteria, graham crackers or something. So all the children will be included, no one will be left out. And although this is being presented from the food allergy policy, there's also other reasons where I think it's acceptable to consider alternative celebrations. We have a socioeconomic disparity in the city. We have many children who can't afford to bring those expensive cupcakes and things to school, and we don't get to celebrate in that way. We also have health and wellness. We do all the promotions, the nutritions, we get all of these extra programs going, so we want to keep that role model going and not have all of the junk food. And it is a lot. If you have ever been in one of the elementary schools outside the nurse's office on a food celebration day, it is a massive amount of food. It's not just one child having a birthday, it could be 5. And those children aren't just having one snack. They're having a lot of, they could be having 4 or 5 different things. I've also had a lot of positive feedback from parents who do not have food allergic children, but just for their dietary preferences, they say they don't want another parent to be the one to say what's an acceptable snack for their child. So I think it's very reasonable that we go to, if they have to have food, that it would be within their own snack time.
I want to talk a little bit about the secondary? It's really a primary
It's
issue.
really, mostly at the elementary. We have had some accidental exposures at the middle and high school, but not as much as we have at the elementary. Now, I understand some of the curriculum studies, the world language studies, that they have food celebrations. And under the new proposal, there would be a permission slip that would go home. The teacher would be responsible for sending that permission slip home. This is the activity they have planned, the food that will be brought in for that, and whether or not the child can participate. If the student has a food allergy, then the parent would need to send in something alternative for the child to have. So none of the celebrations are being taken away. We're just asking that they be done in a different way.
We're asking to substitute. And we also ask that you send, that you participate in the spring newsletter that's going out, Dr.
Yes, we will be.
newsletter.
I will be participating.
And that a district letter will go home at the end of the school year,
Yes.
and a district letter will go out in the first part of the year.
Yes, we have sent a district letter this year outlining what our current practice is, and then before the end of the school year, a letter will go out, and again in September.
In the fall, and then in the fall at the open houses, that the nurses in each school will do a presentation at those open houses to further educate. Good, that's good.
Anything after hours is not affected.
No, anything after hours is not impacted by this at all.
And again, I want to make sure that the committee wants everyone to be sure that this was a collaboration also with parents. And we don't want to rubber stamp something and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. You have been to the citywide PTO. You have talked with the principals in the district. You have talked with representatives of schools, the leaders of the schools.
In other districts?
No, this district.
Oh, this district.
Yeah, this district. So it is a collaboration. Now, it is going to be a big difference for parents, which is why we want it to go out in the newsletter. We want it to go out again as a district letter twice, times 2, and then again for the open houses.
Is this preschool as well, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's important that we all talk about it also at our schools when we go to visit them, and give it the individual attention that we have, that we've given them.
I talked to the advisory council that every once a month I meet with the Superintendent's Advisory Council made up of union reps from each of the schools. And I brought it up to them. They felt basically the way the principals felt. They enjoy it. They think it's something that they'd like to continue some celebration. They want to mention the idea of the snack. They thought that was a good compromise. A lot of folks are very uncomfortable with the food, felt pressure because some teachers did and they didn't. So this would be something they themselves, they hadn't talked to the faculties because I just talked to them as and they felt positive about it as well. So we did speak to them.
And again, I want to make sure that everyone understands that we're not taking away celebrations.
Correct.
We are not saying to the teachers that they cannot have that birthday party for those children. We're just saying that if you do, have it at snack time when the snacks that are brought in are given to each child by their own parent or guardian.
Correct. If they feel they need the food. We do have many teachers in the district who have no food celebrations in their classroom. They do alternative celebrations.
The other thing I want to make clear is that we're not changing the policy. We are changing the regulations.
Right. All right, I have questions on the floor. You want to, Ralph? You want to start? All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was at the first policy meeting when you presented. I was unable to make this one that recently happened, so I just wanted to clarify. I know at the first policy meeting when we talked about this, because I teach, and in my own classroom, I've shared with you the things that I've done because I've had children with food allergies in my class. And the snack thing is what we choose to do. First of all, for parents who experience this where something happened in the classroom and it was the teacher's fault, I'm shocked at that. I can't even believe, and I'm sorry that happened. I just can't, it just doesn't make sense to me that a teacher would allow that to happen. But anyway, if the snacks, this permission slip, which is, I think, only to be used for middle school and high school,
Yes,
Is that correct?
they're having a cultural food celebration. But it's part of the curriculum.
Does this policy, because I haven't read the whole thing except that one line that I shared with you earlier, are we then saying, and I'll give you an example, let's say we didn't do food celebrations the way they're normally done, but in my classroom, let's say I wanted to do a reward for something, like whatever it is. The kids earned so many golf balls because of good behavior, and they got like a popcorn reward. Is this policy limiting that from the teacher as well? Or is there a way for the teacher to have a permission slip in elementary school where whatever the reward or whatever snack is given, it's something that every child could have? Because if they're bringing in, if every child in the classroom can have popcorn, let's just say, because their parent provides it for snack, why couldn't the teacher choose to also use that? I guess that's my question, like if you...
Because we're not looking at just one classroom, we are looking at across the district, and it will never be that way. There are always going to be, because every classroom, almost every classroom will have a child that has a food allergy. So, and we discourage the use of...
I understand that. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I understand that, but...
So we discourage the use of food. We cannot use candy as a reward. That's also part of our wellness policy. But food should not be used as a reward. Why can't they be rewarded with stickers or bouncy balls or a bookmark or something else? They're still getting a reward. They're still being made to feel special. It just doesn't have to be food.
All right, Val, do you have something you want to ask?
I don't think Ambrose is done yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know that.
You saw that face?
Yeah, I got you. No, okay, I wanted to ask, because I wasn't at the policy meeting either. So it's actually a question for Kathy, our Kathy here. That's okay. So basically what we're doing is modifying the current policy.
No,
The policy doesn't, it's just the regs to enforce the policy.
Okay, so
Policy
getting a little stricter on what? Enforcement. And that'll take place
next
year. So my question is, I know a couple incidents that have happened in school now by bypassing them. Still can't get my head around how you walk down with 25 cupcakes. And I understand.
It's really not it's other food. It's
Yeah. No, I know. And I know the wellness part. Although one cupcake a month didn't give me this body. So I understand that. How do we, for the next couple months, enforce what's going on now? I don't know if that's a question for you or who is the question for. How do we enforce that now until this new policy, if it does in fact take place?
Since the last meeting, one suggestion was made by the district letter. We did you send out a district letter as a reminder?
We had a district letter that went out to parents, but are you referring to the staff?
I am referring to like inside the school.
Yes, all of the principals put out a memo an email to all of the staff, and Dr. Glass also had sent one as well. We are not changing anything this year. The nurses are still checking the food. We are asking that these celebrations still just be once a month. And the staff has been put on notice that it is their liability if they don't follow the rules.
So to your knowledge, has it happened again after those letters went out? Is that what it did?
No.
It's a regulation. I'm confused. I need some guidance. We're not changing the policy as we have it written now.
Right.
We're just changing the regulations.
We're
Is that
changing
correct? All right. I just needed that clarified. Thank you.
I just have a clarification. So the permission slip that would allow for outside food, such as for like a culture day or something, that is only in the middle school and high school, that there is nothing in elementary school for that. and why is that?
To my knowledge, they're not having those outside celebrations.
It's also not part of our curriculum.
Correct. At the high school and middle school level, if they have a world language, they want to introduce some of the foods into the curriculum. That's why the permission slip was created. They're doing that now, but I think just as the point that we want to increase the safety, I think it's important to note that food allergies are on the rise and they will continue to rise. It's not going to change. Things are not the way they were 20 years ago, they're not the way they were 10 years ago. Peanut allergies alone have tripled. And I think it's our responsibility to then increase our safety for these children.
I just think that there are class projects and stuff at the elementary level. So I think the opportunity for elementary school teachers to do the whole permission slip procedure would be appropriate at all grade levels, not just the middle and high school. It's just a personal feeling. But I do have another question, which is, what exactly do we go from here now? Is it basically, is this going to continue, or are we going to go to the public more? Or is it basically tonight and we go?
The regulations themselves can be changed at any time. Because this is such an impact, we decided not to do it that way. If you have a policy change itself, it requires to be read publicly, like tonight, go out into the public for 2 weeks, and let people look at that and come back and comment. And we can still do that. There isn't, I mean, this is for next year, and if anybody shouldn't feel rushed into it. I mean, right now, the regs that Rose is looking at, we're still working on making the modifications.
That's my question.
That's being worked on, right? We just had a meeting last night, so one of the things we could do is rewrite them. Even though they're my prerogative, not yours, we'll do it collectively. We'll look at them and then put it out to the public, have them look at it, so parents know. And then at another meeting, have it on the agenda for conversation. But there is no approval process needed because they're administrative. We could air it out that way and give people more time to react to it, which is fine. This is not going into next year. But I think you did your due diligence by getting to the teachers, the principals, to the parents, and to the other groups. So you've done that due diligence. But waiting another few weeks, I think, as we make it public, is not a bad thing. For my opinion. It's not going until next year. The newsletter will go out later on, and I think it'll be May. I just like to have it for that, if I can.
Okay, and because I feel that it's very, very important that we have parents, a majority of the parents on our side, already. Apparently there was a PowerPoint which I missed that at the first policy meeting that you demonstrated it works. I was wondering if there's some way we could get that on the website so everybody can see it, so that we can, when we send these notices out, because that PowerPoint, whatever was in that PowerPoint, changed people's minds that had lines drawn in the sand. In other words, they were firm that we were never going to stop cupcakes coming into our schools, okay? That it was a ridiculous statement. And whatever is in that changed those people's minds. Right. Mine being one of them, I didn't even see it, it was just what was told to me and the way it was described. So I'm thinking it's that powerful that perhaps not we need to put that for everyone to be able to see. Is it possible?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, do you think it's a good idea also? I mean,
yes, I do. And it's certainly a way for, for parents to go on and to access the information.
Right.
But I'd like to emphasize it's not just about cupcakes.
No, I understand that. And I know that. That's no reciprocation on my part. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to demean in any way.
No. It's not just the cupcakes. We have children who have food allergies. They don't necessarily have anaphylaxis, but if you name a fruit, apples, oranges, mangoes, peaches, things that you think would be healthy alternatives. We have children with those allergies.
Well, this whole thing, I have a woman, a friend of mine, who has had a child who was outplaced for 3 years by our special education department, who has had problems all of this young woman's life. And when the mother was diagnosed with celiac, okay, and they did then study the other people in the family, all the children had it. And since the child's been taking care of her diet, she's not a child, she's a 25-year-old woman, it's a complete change in personality. And you can't help thinking that all of that work going on so many years didn't have to be just a work. And so and that's why I say no way can I do trying to. But if that PowerPoint was that powerful, like other people have access to it.
That can be done this week, I just have to.
Thank you very much.
It's all
So we'll
Yeah.
we will redo the regs. I think have a group work with us and do the regs. And then we'll get it on the board for information again, and we'll share with the principals, and I'm sure with their PTOs, when they have a meeting. And then we'll wait 2 weeks and bring it back if there's any comments here. And then we'll go from there. But the board doesn't have to approve it because there's no policy change. We can just do it.
Can you clarify that? Because I have this packet here. When you say policy change, you mean this first
No.
page where it says
It doesn't
policy
say,
statement?
right, and the rest should say regs.
So this says policy statement,
that's
but
the
you're saying
policy.
we're not changing.
That's
But
correct.
inside the packet, there's 10 pages of things that have the school nurse's responsibility, the teacher's responsibility, the parent's responsibility.
Those
the
are
student's
regulations.
responsibility. Those are the regulations, and those are what you're looking to change in some way, shape, or form. And regulations do not need board approval?
No.
Just this policy statement does.
I mean, if I'm sitting here and there's a 11 no vote, don't do it, I'm not going to do it, right? But I'm saying to you, it's my job, our job, the nurse's job really, with our medical advisor in this case, go through it and give us advice on the regs. Policy is very general for that purpose. It's the enforcement part that you're indicating, and that becomes administrative. That's the only difference.
So the Board of Education sets the policy.
Right.
We set the policy.
And you enforce it. I mean, I know that, but you create the regulation.
But what generally happens, Ralph, let's take this. When it was new, we take new policy and the new regs and bring it to the board. So they look at it. If there's something in there that's great, that they want to comment, they'll make comment. They'll pass the policy. We'll listen to the comments about the regs and do some modifications.
So if we want to change, if we're going to change the policy, that would be board approval.
Absolutely. They're the only ones that can do that. And there's a process to do that.
I think I would like a board consensus.
Right.
So that we can go forward with this. Say yes or no.
What are we going forward with?
Is it possible that we all can get a copy of this?
Yeah, you should have it in your policy book, yeah.
Okay, but what this is the old regs, right?
Yeah.
So,
Because we haven't changed the
because you
regs
haven't
yet.
changed the regs yet, I understand, but the proposed changes,
We haven't done
we
yet.
haven't even done yet, and that becomes part of who to do.
The administrators do that because we
Yeah.
don't.
Right, what you have in terms of the regulations, the changes are included in them. They are?
This one right now?
Kathy, that is the
Okay,
old
that-
one.
that-
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you gave it.
Don't confuse things. That is the old one. We had a meeting last night.
don't have it.
You have some
Okay.
proposals that we're working on.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought they had
No,
what I
we
needed.
don't have it.
So-
Okay, that's one.
Okay.
But what I would like is a consensus for Kathy to go forward with this, that we are actually in agreement for safety reasons, that we are going to go forward and change regulations.
Yes.
So-
Okay. Let's start. We'll start with Michael.
Unless you know what the regulations are going to change.
Well, then we need to change them for food safety.
Okay.
Go, Michael.
As we look to get a consensus, there's a few points that I want to raise. You were in policy the other night, unfortunately. You heard some of this, so you're going to have to hear it again. I'm glad to see that the proposed regulation changes are not as firm, not as harsh as they were originally proposed a couple months ago, because I think it's very important to have cultural days and other activities that do involve outside food within the classroom. I believe that is very important. With that said, though, I'm worried about the precedent that this sets. As with any regulation, the question has to be asked, what is next to come from this? For instance, I know this seems far-fetched, but will we ultimately decide to eliminate recess because of students who are allergic to bees? I brought this up the other night, and it does seem far-fetched, but these are the type of questions that we open ourselves up to when we go forward with the direction that we seem to be taking tonight. There's also an argument that this can serve as a teaching moment. The problem that I have with simply changing this regulation is that it actually really is not a teaching moment. We're not really teaching the students anything. We are showing them that when 0.5% of the students in the district have a food allergy, the other 99.5% of the students need to change the way that things are done. Rather, I believe it would be best if we explain to students the need to be proactive. We need to teach students with allergies that they will be faced with challenges all throughout their lives, and we should prepare them for those challenges. We need to explain to all students that some people have allergies, and so we need to be careful and look out for those people. Simply changing the regulation may be an easy fix, but it does little to fundamentally prepare students for life after school. I understand that this is well-intentioned. I know that, and I commend them for the time that they've devoted to this. I, along with everyone else here, know that the safety of all students, especially those with food allergies, has to be a top priority for us. However, I just would have went about this a little different. If you're looking to build consensus, I know, based on being very outnumbered the other night, and based on what it seems to be the feel this evening, that we are going to move forward with this. And like I said, I think it is not as bad as it originally was proposed. I would not move forward in the direction that has been proposed tonight, and these proposed regulation changes in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anybody else who's going to take a consent? Richard? And then this is it on this conversation, on this. Otherwise, we're just going to table it.
But again, I need some clarity on certain things. If the regulations are written and enforced by the administration, then what rights or what domain do we have to challenge that? Number one. Number two, Kathy has asked for a consensus. The consensus, and I think should be done when we're looked at, when we're given both those regulations, in terms of what's being proposed, as opposed to what it is, if you're looking for a consensus.
I'm looking for a consensus for them to go ahead and
make
give
the
us,
proposal?
that proposal.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. Otherwise, why don't we just stop them in their tracks and say, we're not changing anything and we're just leaving it as is? That's what I'm asking for. Are we leaving it and telling them, stop, we're not doing any of this, or come back with it?
By the way, this is not a policy discussion. It was on my report. It's not a policy issue, it's just a conversation, so we can talk about it.
It was brought before the policy.
And any consensus, we're just going to move through. The advice of the medical advisor is that you need to make modifications. I have a fiduciary right to advise you as the CEO of this district in terms of children's rights and your rights. We're going to make those modifications based on your accepted policy. We'll bring it back and we'll talk about it. And if there are areas that we need to look at differently, I mean, we'll do it together. So when you say who's in charge of, who you're in charge of.
No, I
wasn't. I don't want you being boards in charge of. It's just the way in school code, they segmented policy in the realm of the board, regulations, and they work together. And tonight was just an update. It wasn't meant to have a policy update. Kathy's already worked on an updated thing we have that we need to do.
Yes, I have.
So we have one that we're reviewing. It's just that it happened last night. We thought it'd be good to have a conversation.
And it is good to have a conversation.
It is. May I just respond to Mr. Ferguson's remarks? In terms of teachable moments, what I was referring to there was it is a teachable moment for children to have some understanding and compassion for other children who can't enjoy the same things that they do. In terms of teaching the children, yes, we do. We educate them. We work very closely with their parents. But a 5-year-old is not going to be able to advocate for themselves. We have many special needs children in this district who have food allergies, anaphylactic food allergies, who do not have the ability to even be aware that they're allergic, and have had incidents where a goodie bag has been provided in a classroom with candy bar with nuts, and it's been taken home with them on the bus. And there is no way that a child like that can advocate or even know that they should eat it. So it's not just, as I said, one class or one child with typical children. We have almost 11,000 children in this district, a variety of situations. So it's not, I don't think, as a professional who's been working with these children, it's easy to say, teach them how to live with it. We do teach them how to live with it, but they need a lot of advocacy and guidance in that direction.
Well, as I said the other night, I think it might have been wise to maybe have an elementary school policy or regulation, as it's now called, rather than maybe change the whole thing. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me, one more. Bob, this is it now.
Okay, just
Go on for 40 minutes.
talking about all the students, no matter whether they're in kindergarten, pre-K, or 17 years old in high school, we as a board have the responsibility of acting local parentis. That it's our obligation to look out for the health and safety of the individuals. And it is assumed that we are taking this position very, very responsibly. Okay, and so I just want to say it's such a health and safety issue that doesn't have to be, a kindergarten child, maybe not being, but it's the whole spectrum. Okay, and it is our responsibility under this doctrine, to look out for everybody's health and safety.
I don't
Okay,
think
I'm just
anybody
going
here
to
is
just
disputing
stop
that.
it at that, okay?
Michael's point is very salient, and I understand it. And he's not saying that we don't have that responsibility. I don't believe that was intoned at all in this conversation.
He said basically it's left to the individual students, and there's something.
Well, in high school, I think that we have. All righty.
Could we move forward with the consensus?
Yes, please, thank you.
And we don't even have.
There's no reason. There is actually no consensus needed because there are the right regulations to match the policy.
So we're going to move on to the next
Next time we're going to look at it.
Should we break for a snack?
We don't need to, they're done. So we'll take this consensus because it will make everybody happy. Michael, is it all right with you if we move forward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes.
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 Forward.
Yes.
Oh, now you've confused me. What am I moving forward on?
Let them do the regulations and bring
To
it
get
back
on
to
with the
us.
meeting.
Oh, to have them make their modifications to the existing document and then present to us
There you go.
for further
Yes, the
discussion?
regulations. All the
Yes.
modified the regulations.
Yes.
Here to-
Thank you.
Yes.
For,
Was that a yes? So we're all in agreement?
Yep.
So we'll all stop talking about this now and move forward, okay?
Yeah.
Next. And please, it's not that it's not very important, it's just that it's enough.
This is very important.
Thank you,
Really?
Kathy.
Thank you, Thank you, Kathy. Thanks. Thanks so much. It's very, very important.
Thank you, Kevin.
There's a lot of things. Okay. Please carry on.
Madam Chair, may I just make one comment that on our website, all of the board policies and regulations are posted. So you can always go to the website, and if you go under the district pull down under Board of Education, you'll see a place where it says policies, and then you just scroll through and click on the one that you want to read. So they are all there.
And I also would like to make a point that perhaps is also important that we all know. We get notices for meetings that the policy committee is meeting or that superintendent's evaluation is meeting. If we have an undying interest in whatever that policy or whatever that committee is discussing, we should perhaps attend the committee meeting where these conversations go on ad nauseam all the time. Okay? So let's just move forward now, please. Thank you very much. Dr. Sally, you want to talk to us, please, about educator certification and compliance report?
Yes.
Thank you. Tonight?
Because of the hour, let me do this briefly, but if you have any questions, certainly more than happy to entertain them. What you see in front of you, the April 23rd executive summary for the Board of Education, the important thing to know is this is a work in progress. There is the Performance Evaluation Advisory Committee that has been established at the state level of many of the big organizations, and they are currently studying this, and they'll be coming forward very shortly making recommendations. So in preparation for that, we want to, in a sense, get our ducks in order and see what our thinking was. And so right as of today, the two items that you have here represent the thinking of two subcommittees that were put together. Are they cast in stone? No. But this is the current thinking, and then we have to vet it a little bit more. Our best information today, we just got information from the state. We will probably be asked to submit our plan, because these are one-year plans, sometime in early June. And again, that has been a change from what they have been saying in the past. As you know, this has been a moving target, so we're trying to just keep ahead of the onslaught of this. So let me see if I can explain these two things. The first one is pretty straightforward. The second one gets very tricky. What's being suggested, if you remember when we first talked about this, the original proposal from the state was that teachers would have 3 formal observations, meaning a pre-conference, a formal full-period observation, and a post-conference. Every teacher will have 3 of those a year and 3 mini or walk-through observations each year. That's a lot of time, and if you make a connection to the Alliance District grant, it goes back to Mr. Hawley's question, have we changed anything? The only change that we really saw back when was we were talking about a 0.5 assistant principal at each of the 2 elementary schools, Shelter and Staley, that we expanded. That was because we thought we might have to have more feet on the street, in a sense, to be able to conduct those observations in conjunction with this. The state has substantially relaxed their position on this. The current language says that we can apply for a 1-year waiver that says no less than once every 3 years shall a teacher who's deemed to be proficient be required to have a formal observation. Every year they'll still be required to have 3 informal or mini observations, the walkthroughs. One thought is that 3 years out is too much. It's too far away from close observation. Another thought is we don't have the ability to do every year. And so that kind of compromise position that the committee came up with on its own was once every other year. So 50% of my staff is on direct observation year 1, and the other 50% are not. And then in year 2, which is flip-flop, and the other half go on direct observation. There's still some conversation around this. Is it doable? We don't know. As we've been vetting this with our administrative team, they're not 100% sure. And so we're still working this through. The saving grace for this is that the language says no less than once every 3 years. So we could do it every other year. No less than once every 3 years. So you can't have somebody who's not being formally evaluated at least once every 3 years. If you want to do them once every other year, that's acceptable. If you want to do them once every year, that's acceptable. So we have a lot of latitude. We're waiting for PEAK to come forward and make their formal recommendations. The second item is the one that gets a little bit tricky, and I'll see if I can do a good job explaining this. There are 2 ways that the digital environment for the Robert Marzano Teacher Evaluation Framework, known as iObservation, can calculate a teacher's performance. The first is simply averaging. So if I get a 0 on an observation, I get a 50 on the next one, I get 100 on the third, you just average those 3 together. If I add them up, divide by 3, you get a 50. And that's the averaging model. Pretty straightforward, it's what we're familiar with. The conjunctive model is where it gets a little bit more convoluted. Before I talk about that, let me just quickly go back to the averaging model. When you average, the score is a hard number, and it can't be changed. And so what happens is our entire philosophy as a school system, that teacher evaluation is about promoting maximum growth and development of the adults so that they do a better job in the classrooms with the kids. When you go to an averaging model, what we've seen across the country from other districts who have done this, there tends to be a push on the part of teachers more to go into more into survival mode and say, what's my current number? So they forget about growth and development. They just say, what's my current number? What's my average? I'm a 2.1. I really need to be a 3.6. And so they start focusing on what do I have to do to get my number to go higher. I need to take less risks. I need to stay away from new curriculum. I need to stay away from new pedagogy, the actual instruction delivery strategies. I might need to stay away from new assessment strategies, and I'm sure, Ambrose, you experience this all the time in your classroom. I need to go back to my comfort zone and my safety zone and not take those risks. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Danbury has not been able to grow the way we have over the years by continuously staying with the status quo. What the conjunctive model says is that you set a threshold. And the example that I used in the document that I sent you, I think was 70%. So that if you're proficient for 70% of your observation calibration, that says you're okay, you're a proficient teacher, and there's no harm that's going to be done to you. Which means 30% of the time, you can be in a risky area and not doing as well as you would expect or would hope to do. But if you think about something, and we've talked about this in the past, called the implementation dip, when you try something new, your performance gets worse because it's new, you haven't mastered it yet. Over time, your performance comes back up to where it was originally, and hopefully actually surpasses that. And that's been the model that we've used, is kind of dipping and going higher, dipping and going higher. The technical term, we get people into the zone of proximal development, which means I'm being stretched. It's the way an athlete gets better, they get pushed. By going into the conjunctive model, it allows teachers to take safe risks with new curriculum, new instructional strategies, new assessment methodologies, and if they bomb out, it's okay, because they're trying it for the first or second time. And the rest of the time, they're in their comfort zone, 70%, 75%, whatever we set that bar at. And between 65 and 75 is pretty much what's being recommended across the country. So as the district and the committee looked at this, they said we really want to promote maximum teacher and administrative development and growth. In order to do that, we have to build some degree of safety into this. And the term Marzano's team uses is soft landing. Instead of crash and burn, boy, I had one bad day, crash, you average it together, you're going to have a bad evaluation for the year. There's no way around that. This allows you to take a risk and not have such a good experience, but it's designed between you and your evaluator as a controlled effort. And so I'm going to try this on Tuesday. Ann Rose, as my evaluator, please come in and observe me. It's the first time I've ever done it. I don't think it's going to be that good, but I need your critical feedback as another educator. And as we work through this, come back in 6 months and see what I'm doing. And I'll be much better because I've taken that diagnostic information, prescriptive approach, coaching feedback. I've taken it to heart. I've gone through some training. I've done some more practice. And guess what? I'm much better now than I was 6 months ago. That's been our philosophy all along. And so that's why the team is really pushing this. The last part, parent and student satisfaction surveys. When you get a group of educators together and you say, what do we want to know? Well, we want to know a lot of stuff. So you could generate a 1,000-item survey if you wanted to. We didn't do that, but we did have some pretty hefty surveys that the committees had designed. When they went back and looked at it, if I'm a high school student and I have 5 classes, and I have to take a 50-question survey in each class, it just gets ridiculous. So we cut it back to maybe picking 3 classes and dropping it down to, say, 12 really salient questions. And that's going to be a field test for us. The state is encouraging this as they've looked at other districts who have done these massive surveys. It's just gotten people all caught up, and nobody wants to reply. The last part of this, if you've ever had somebody call you at home and say, I have a 20-question survey, would you be interested in doing it? Click. One quick question. Do you get the Danbury News Times? Yes. Thank you. So that's kind of the thought process behind this. We're not doing anything with this. We've been really working very hard to keep the board fully informed, not just because of our process of transparency, but really, as we're learning, we're hoping to try and educate board members who are not part of the actual committee itself. And so this is the most current level of our work and level of our thinking. Next time we talk to you, will be better informed by the work of PEAK and what their recommendations are to the State Board of Ed. The state has informed us nothing takes place. The State Board of Ed nobody is doing anything. The commissioner can't do anything. The State Board of Ed looks at it and publicly comes to an agreement. This is what we're going to adopt. Once they do, we'll push it out immediately to the locals. We'll take that, quickly go back into committee, do the kind of work that we have to do, and then come back to the board and say, this is really the final iteration of this. My final point is our hunch is we're going to be very, very close to what PEAK is recommending. We've been keeping our fingers on the pulse of as many of these teams as we possibly could. We've been very much in contact with the state, and we're going up on May 1st for the Alliance District convening, bringing a team up there, and we'll get much more information. And so the final thing is we've also been sharing information across the state at the local level. So through Education Connection, we'll ask a question, it'll be pushed out to all the Education Connection catchment districts. They push the answer back, and then we do the same thing to them, reciprocity. So we think we're pretty smart on this in an egotistical way, because we've done a lot of homework. And a very large committee of really smart people doing a lot of smart work. And so we think we're in a wonderful place with this, and we're getting good feedback from the state. So bottom line is thank you for your support. Bob, thank you for being responsible. Michael, Eileen, and it's really been a wonderful Richard. It's been a wonderful kind of marriage between the board and the work that the staff has been doing. And the unions also, I think they're not here tonight, but they've been very, very supportive and beneficial.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody have any questions? Bill? Richard?
Dr. Fass, this is something that the Danbury District, your group has drafted for submission to the state for approval, and then ultimately we as a district would follow it. Each district would do a similar thing by its own, or is it collectively going to be put together by the state and then sent back to the districts?
Great question. The state has given us guidelines saying here are the parameters, you have to back into these. You have autonomy as a school system within those parameters. So you could choose the Robert Marzano model, Kim Marshall, there are a variety of Charlotte Davidson models. We had a very robust one-year-long process which we selected Marzano. And then they say it's a moving target, so we're changing our thinking as we're compiling this in state. So the district kind of retrofits. The plan is only good for 1 year, which is smart. So the board, as you recall, you approved our plan for submission after fully vetting it last year. At the end of this year, we'll submit next year's plan, but you as a board have to approve it first. So that's why we keep bringing it back to you to make sure you have a comfort level. Once you approve it, we submit it, we believe that someone's going to be pro forma, they'll approve it, because we're totally in alignment with them. And so it becomes, again, it's our plan, and we live with it for a year.
Now the soft landing, is it measured year 2, year 3 against a particular teacher, so that the first year you said if the risk is taken and it's a 20-30% risk, do you measure that the second year to see how the second year that so-called soft landing or differential would be relative to new concepts that are done? Is that the way?
Yes and no. It's a tricky question. Each year a teacher will set something called an SLO, Student Learning Objective, and they're measured by things called IAGDs, Indicators of Academic Growth and Development. Those are typically annual. However, a teacher can say, can I do this over a 2-year period? It's going to be a longer learning curve. So it's traditionally thought of as a 1-year plan. The other part of this, the yes part is that, however, when we look at teacher performance, and teachers defined by the state as anybody below the rank of superintendent, as we look at teacher performance, we always look at it on a longitudinal basis. So when we have cabinet meetings, Kim comes forward from HR, and we talk about it from a human relations perspective, personnel perspective, about someone who may be having a performance deficiency over time. Everybody has a bad day, but when you have a bad year, another bad year, another bad year, it's a different kind of thing. So we do track it longitudinally, but the short answer is typically it's an annual sense.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Glass?
So, just so the board knows, it doesn't go anywhere until you approve it, and we expect to have it in June, the final recommendation. But before it can come here, it has to go back to your advisory group by law, which is the subcommittee of the board. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next. When
Two
touch on
things.
this?
Yeah, I'll just briefly, you heard the Head Start, that's embedded in there, that information. The report came to me just before I sent this out, that's why I included it here. The educator certification, I can't tell you how difficult it is to have 100% compliance.
I was going to say, this
I
is the first
commend
time. Thank you.
your office and doing it. It's just really unbelievable to be able to do it. Laura in that office is just phenomenal to do this. And we are in 100% compliance, and it's really significant. I just wanted to say thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. And the Head Start outcomes are in the packet for you to read. All righty.
You know, just a quick note on that, every one of those 7 domains have increased. The lowest was 10%, and the highest was 25%. So I suspect that this evaluation has been done independently by somebody of them. It started themselves, but it seems like they're, they do it themselves, yeah. So I think it seems like it's a pretty good increase.
That is, the teacher gives the assessments to each. All right, moving along. Okay, it's my turn. I'll go as quick as I possibly can. Next Wednesday, because I'm going to say this out loud so I can get a consensus of who's coming. Ted Carroll's coming to talk to us. It's a workshop on us. Ted Carroll, for information, is the director of the was the director of the Great Oak Record Leadership Council. We've had him before here. He gives great seminars. They're helpful not just as board members, but as individual business people too. We'll all learn something. Okay? So how many people can come next Wednesday? You know, I'm not asking for a definite commitment. Does everybody think they can get here? Because I don't want them to come and only have 4 or 5 of us here.
I cannot make it.
Okay, what do you think? 6:30. I don't know if there were sandwiches or not.
I'll be here.
There'll be wraps. I just got it from the big guy over there.
What day is that?
The 30th.
Okay, somebody said something like 29. Yeah, I think I could.
Is it the 29th? Maybe it's the 29th.
No, it's the
30th.
30th at 6:30.
Okay. So Richie said no, but everybody else thinks they're coming?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because I'm not saying anything, it's just that I've had this gentleman come, he's fabulous. It's good for you as a person, not just as a board member.
Yeah, I don't see why
Yeah, it's.
not. As of right now, yeah. I gotta check this out.
Alrighty. Michael, do you think we can make it next Wednesday?
I thought.
All right, so we're looking good, that we'll have a better majority. Got it, guys? All right, moving along on my report is, last week I spoke at Eden Drive's parent group at the community center. I was not prepared. I was prepared, but I was not prepared. To speak of, it was just parents, and there were very few of them. I want to tell you about 8 or 9 sitting around a table in someone's dining room. And that was the community center, that's why I couldn't find it. It wasn't a freestanding building. It was like an apartment in the middle of Eden Drive. Got there, went to speak, found out nobody spoke English, not just as their first language, but nobody was really fluent except for the interpreter, who told me that I could speak 2 or 3 sentences at a time, and she would translate. And anyone that knows me well enough to know that I don't speak in 2 or 3 sentences. All right, it takes me 5 sentences to say my name. Anyway, I spoke. It was wonderful. It was wonderful because we had something in common. It wasn't what we do as a board, as they wanted to know about the Board of Education. They wanted to know about the people that were on the Board of Education and what we do. So I could only talk about myself. And I told them that, much like most of them, I'm the first one in my family that was born in America. And what it was like for my parents parenting a child in a private school system were there. They had learned fear of people in authority in the church. and how they should never have to feel that. Because the questions they asked me were not about how we operated. It was, what do they do because they don't understand how to do the math that their children do. And they're afraid to go to the teachers because they don't want the teachers, their lack of intellectual ability to, I'm paraphrasing, reflect on their children. And how do they get the teacher to understand? So I spent an hour or so talking, and it was so much better than the speech that I had rehearsed at home, talking about the roles and responsibilities of the Board of Education. It was the roles and responsibilities of parenting, and how important they were to their children's education, far more important than any teacher that the child was ever going to encounter. Because it was that's through them they were going to learn respect for education. And so it was a wonderful experience for me. Not so much for you listening, but it's okay. Moving forward, last night, 13 years I've sat on the Board of Education, and I've attended probably 8 of those meetings with the Prom Council about the budget for the school. This was, ladies and gentlemen, the most professional presentation I have ever seen. No one could repeat that. I watched people on the Common Council that usually are snarky, okay, calm right down. I listened to Deb Pearson and Ken speak on their areas of expertise so that nobody had a question, they were finished. It's fine for me to say that Sal did a great job. Sal did a fabulous job putting this team together already. It was the best I've ever seen. I've never been so proud. I felt like a mom whose children were before her. Okay. I wanted to get up and clap when they spoke. I mean, we're all used to Bill Glass, wow in the room, okay? We're used to people just going, okay, that's Bill Glass. Sal spoke, oh my God. Oh my God. I almost kissed him at the end of it. He talked with PowerPoint. He just spoke clearly. No, there were only 2 acronyms used for the whole thing. It was great. One by Sal and one by Bill, okay? But the ladies, they held their own with everybody. They answered questions concisely. I learned things. I learned Deb spoke. I learned things. Kim understood. But these people did a fabulous job. If I had the guts, I'd make us all stand up and clap for them because that's what they did. They represented us with such great aplomb, so much professionalism. All those words that we learn and we hear all the time were exhibited last evening in a room in City Hall. And what happened was, all the snarky people were all shaking our hands and congratulating us at the end because they truly respected these individuals for what they are. Okay? Thanks, guys. And that's it. And I think, yep, that's it. Oh, no, it's not 3 minutes. 3 minutes, okay. All right, because that's my new rule. Everybody only has 3 minutes, okay? Now, the other thing is, I do want to ask, how many people here did something in their schools or can talk about something in their schools? And tomorrow night, your parents at Parents Group, Class, I don't know if you caught that or not. Tomorrow night is the Parents Group at East. All right, if you want to go Thursday night. It starts at 5:30, and then by 6:30 they'll be going to their meeting. They're having a dinner at 5:30. So that's what's going on at East this week. I spoke to Nick Getz and he said at a meeting to talk about what's going on at high school. Right? And anybody else have anything? And nobody knows who represents Pembroke? Okay. Debbie thinks it's her. Because it would be nice. If we do that. All right. What, Virginia?
Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry, Richard, as soon as Gladys and Kathy finish their conversation, go ahead.
I just want to remind everybody that on May 2nd, it's a Friday night at 7 o'clock at the Assumption Church. There's going to be a budget presentation to the community. So as many board... no, it's May 2nd.
May 2nd.
So as many board members that can attend, we appreciate it. We're expecting the mayor to be there as well, hopefully some council people. And again, part of this presentation is part of community relations, but as well as the Board of Education, again, as an outreach to the community as to what we do and educate them in the budget process, what the numbers mean and what we're looking for. So again, they could help advocate for our budget as well as us. If you could make a notation, that would be good.
We'll send out a reminder.
7 o'clock.
We'll send out a, I'll send out a.
And there's childcare for those that have children. They're going to provide childcare too. All right.
Okay, I'll send that out. All right, Gladys, do you want to say something about superintendent?
We had our superintendent evaluation committee meeting tonight with the full board. Thank everyone for coming out. I have 3 members that were not there. I have packages that I can give you, okay, so you can be up to date with us. We will have another meeting on May the 21st, so please, we would like the full board at that meeting. It's going to start at 6 o'clock, and somebody will be providing food. Okay? So please, put it on the schedule, okay?
We have this dinner email, so.
And we had a great meeting of questions, and we're going to move forward with information that I'm going to give you tonight, okay?
Anybody else want to talk about committee? Anybody else want to talk about school? Is there?
5 minutes.
Okay. Can I hear?
5 minutes.
We don't have executive session.
Yes, we do.
5 minutes.
So that's why I started at 9:30. So it's okay. 5 minutes she promised. Can I hear a motion to go to executive session?
Second. We're at 95%.
Okay, yeah, but we're not going to have a 5-minute recess, so we.
No.